So Mrs. Evans 6th graders, if you are still learning or want to learn about sewing skills, I thought that I would start out with this video with you today and just review the parts of the machine and then go through how to thread the machine. So let's get started. Alright, so this is my machine. It's a Janome brand. Every machine is a little bit different, but in general they still have about the same parts to it. So let's get started here from the top. So remember, our spool thread fits onto the spool pin, which is on top of the machine. So if you take this off, so the spool thread, which is this, that's where the thread is, goes right on the spool pin, which is this long, thin plastic piece that the spool thread fits onto. And then this round disc is called the spool holder. That's what goes onto the spool pin and holds the spool thread on there. Okay. Another part that we went over was this part right here. This is the bobbin winder. When you need to wind a bobbin, such as this, if there's no thread on your bobbin, which is the tiny spool of thread that goes into your machine, you put it on this part right here. And I can show you in another video how to fill your bobbin. So that's the bobbin and the bobbin winder. Alright, so the next part that we went over is this right here. This is a lever that goes up and down and pulls the thread from the spool. So that's the thread take-up lever. Okay, there are a couple dials on your machine that you can set. We have the stitch type and the stitch length dials. You don't really need to worry about that until you get more into in-depth sewing. This button right here, when you press and hold that in, it is the reverse button and it makes the machine sew backwards. This part over here, that is the hand wheel that manually moves the needle up and down into the fabric. So if you can see, when I turn the wheel, it makes the needle go up and down. Alright, so next, this part right here is the needle. That's what the thread goes into and also what pierces the fabric as it moves up and down. This part right here underneath the needle is the presser foot. This is what holds down the fabric as it goes through the machine. And then there's a lever right here or on the back of your machine that lifts and lowers the presser foot. So that's the presser foot lever. Okay. Get a little closer here. Underneath the presser foot is this metal plate. It has some numbers on it. That is called the needle plate, and the numbers are seam allowance lines. Okay, underneath the presser foot are some rough lines, and that is called the feed dog. Let's see if I can get this off. The feed dog, maybe I can get that off. Alright, well, the feed dog is this rough part right underneath the presser foot. The feed dog actually moves up and down as the machine runs, and that's what pushes and pulls the fabric through the machine. Alright, this right here, this is the bobbin cover. So the bobbin cover comes off, and the bobbin fits into this part right here in the bobbin case. So that's where the tiny spool of thread or the bobbin fits into the machine. So inside there's the bobbin case. This part that goes over top of it is called the bobbin cover. Okay, I think the only part I forgot to tell you about, which is pretty simple, is the on-off switch, which is on the right side of the machine. And of course, the gas pedal, which goes on the floor, and that's what controls the speed of the machine and making the machine run. So that's what you put your foot on while you're sewing. Alright, so that is a review of all the parts of the machine. Alright, so if you are like a lot of my students who have never learned to sew before, the first thing I tell my students to do is to practice sewing on paper without any thread in the machine. It's just a way to practice, getting used to the gas pedal and how fast to go, and also getting practice with steering the fabric or paper. So this is the first thing we're going to do. Alright, before you start sewing on your paper, you're going to put your gas pedal on the floor so that the thicker side of the gas pedal is facing away from you, just like a gas pedal in a car. And then you're going to turn on your machine on the right side. Okay, so I'm going to start on this line right here. We're going to start at the very top. I'm going to put it underneath my needle and presser foot. Line it up. I'm going to take my hand wheel and turn it towards me, and I'm going to put the needle down into the paper first. And then I'm going to use the presser foot lever to put down my presser foot. So remember, the presser foot is what holds down the paper or fabric, and the feed dog, which is underneath, is what pushes or pulls the fabric or paper through. So all I'm going to do is lightly steer the paper. You don't want to put your fingers right in the pathway of the needle. You want to keep them to the sides or the bottom. Alright, so I'm going to gently press on the gas pedal. And I'm just going to keep my line right in the middle of my presser foot. I'm going to change my dial here so my stitches are a bit longer. So I'm just gently holding the paper. Because remember, it is the feed dog that pushes the paper through. You don't have to push or pull on the paper. You're just lightly steering. I'm just keeping the line right in the middle of my presser foot. Now, once you get almost to the end of the line, you're going to stop. And you're going to use the hand wheel to finish the last of the line so that you don't go past it. So I'm going to turn the hand wheel towards me. And I'm going to keep going until I get to the end of the line. And then I'm going to bring up my needle, bring up my presser foot, and you should have a nice straight line to look at and practice. And if you need more practice, there are more lines that you can do on the paper. Alright, the next skill that you're going to want to learn as far as sewing goes, first with paper, then with fabric, is learning how to pivot. So when you pivot on fabric, there is a trick to it so that you don't have to take the needle out and start all over again. So I'm actually going to start here on this pivoting paper. And I'm going to line up my paper underneath my needle and presser foot. Make sure the top of the line is underneath the needle. I'm going to turn the hand wheel until the needle goes down in the paper, and then I'm going to put my presser foot down. So again, you're going to start out with a straight line. You're going to keep the line right in the center there between the presser foot. Just gently steer the paper. So before you get to the corner, stop. Use the hand wheel to do the last couple stitches by hand. And try to get the needle to the corner. If it's not perfect, that's okay. So that's probably close enough. So the trick to pivoting is you want to keep the needle down in the paper. So to pivot, you're going to bring up your presser foot by raising the presser foot lever. Then you're going to turn the paper and pivot the paper or fabric. Line it up with the next line or side. Put your presser foot back down, and then keep going on the next line. So that's how you do a pivot. And if you need more practice, you just go around the whole paper until you get to stop. And then when you're done, you can check the back again to make sure you have a clean right angle where you pivoted. Alright everyone, next thing I want to show you is how to fill a bobbin. So with filling a bobbin, you're going to put your spool of thread onto the spool pin, and then you're going to put the spool holder on it right in front. Now, you're going to take some thread off of the spool, and you're going to go around either 1 or 2 thread guides. In my case, you're going to go around 2. So I'm going to go underneath this one, and then I'm going to make sure it goes through the left side of this one. Then I'm going to put my bobbin onto the bobbin winder. I'm going to wrap some of the thread around the bobbin clockwise until I get a good amount on there. And then I'm going to click the bobbin to the right. Sometimes you also have to pull out the hand wheel, but not with all machines. With mine, you just push the bobbin winder over to the right. And then you're just going to press down on the gas pedal all the way. And you'll see it's going to fill the bobbin a little at a time. You just want to fill it to the edge of the bobbin. So I'm going to stop there just for today. And when you're done, you just click it back over and cut that off. And that's how you wind a bobbin. Alright, so the next step to sewing is to learn how to thread your machine. So again, starting out with the spool of thread on the spool pin and the spool holder in front of it, you're going to take some of your thread, and first thing you're going to do is put the thread underneath the first thread guide here. So again, every machine is different, and your machine should come with instruction as far as how to thread your machine, but also a lot of these machines, if you can see, also have guides, little pictures on them like this, and numbers that tell you the steps to threading the machine. So with this one, I'm going to put it underneath this thread guide first, and then down through this space right here. Here we go. I'm going to take my thread, I'm going to go down through this space, and then up through this space, and I'm going to go around the thread take-up lever. So I'm going to go around like this and then bring it forward again. Make sure it clicks in to my thread take-up lever. And then I'm going to take the thread and go back down through this space. Alright, so I've gone down this space with my thread, and now, if you can see okay, there's a little thread guide / hook right here above my needle. I'm going to put my thread behind that little hook. So it's going to be right behind there. Then you're going to take your thread, and this is the part that can be a little difficult. You're going to put the end of your thread through the eye of the needle. You might have to trim your thread before putting it through so that the end of it isn't frayed. So once you get it through the needle, you're going to pull that all the way through, and that's how you thread the top of the machine. Alright, let's talk about threading the bobbin. Alright, so first thing you're going to do is take off your bobbin cover, either by sliding it forward, or you might have a little button like I do right here, where you slide it over or push it over, and then the bobbin cover will pop up and you can take it off. Alright, so with my bobbin, it doesn't really matter which side of the bobbin faces up or not. You're just going to put it right down in there and make sure there's a little bit of thread hanging out. So put your bobbin in there. And if you see on my machine, there's an arrow right here. I'm going to put my thread through this little opening in the metal right here. Okay, I'm going to hold down my bobbin, and then I'm going to pull the thread up until it clicks in right here. So that's how you put your bobbin into the bobbin case. And then we put, actually I'm going to wait to put that on. Next thing we need to do is bring up the bobbin thread through the needle plate. So what we're going to do, we're going to hold on to the thread that's in the needle. And I know you can't see where my hand is, but I'm going to put my right hand on the hand wheel. I'm going to turn the hand wheel towards me. I'm going to have the needle go down into the machine and back up again. And as the needle rises, I'm going to pull gently on the needle thread. And if you can see, it pulls up a loop of the bobbin thread. So then I'm just going to take some scissors and pull that bobbin thread, oops, right up through there, or just pull it up. So I know it's a little hard to see, but now I've pulled the thread from the bobbin up through the needle plate and through my presser foot. So then I'm going to put both of my threads underneath the presser foot and facing back behind the machine, and then I will put the bobbin cover back on.